Hey everybody, this is So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
Andrew's calling me. Just hold on.
I'm gonna keep it going. We're gonna put this live on the show.
Hello.
You see, for the
Oh,
viewers,
now he's gone. Oh,
Andrew.
even the phone call was.
We thought Andrew was going to join this episode, but he has not, and we waited, and he hasn't joined. So that's to get our viewers and listeners up to speed.
Yeah, the join in progress.
If he pops
Does
in
he need
again,
the passcode?
we'll see what happens. But anyway, we're continuing our Halloween series on the show this week. We're actually doing Garrett's pick this week, which is Train to Busan, the 2016 the 2016 South Korean horror action zombie movie. That's what we're doing today. So I hadn't seen it before. Had anyone seen it before? Garrett had seen it before, and that makes sense. You know, it was your pick. Sense, yeah. So then we'll start like we have in prior episodes. Why don't you explain why you wanted us to do this movie?
There were several reasons. I like a sillier kind of Halloween type movie. And so I was leaning towards some of those this year, but I kind of started thinking we hadn't done a real zombie movie that wasn't like Zombieland. We hadn't done an actual zombie movie, to my recollection. And then we hadn't done a foreign language film or an international film for Halloween. So I thought it would be interesting to kind of look at how a different culture, a different country takes on Halloween in their horror films. And I had seen this one, I think, during the pandemic first round, maybe beforehand. And it was so good. Just really, I felt that they delivered on scares, suspense, builds. I think they gave me a lot of character development that, especially with a big cast, I really cared for a lot of the characters in it. I think they handled the zombie well. I think they handled the dynamic not only between the people and the zombies, but the people and the other people and how the zombies make them change towards each other. And I think they played that very well in just 2 hours. And so it was a lot of fun. Really, that was pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I liked it. I'll start by saying that. It's a really cool concept. I feel like it is. I've not seen a whole like ton of zombie movies, but I feel like it is somewhat of a trend to have the story take place in a kind of controlled environment. I think back on the remake of Night of the Living Dead, where most of it takes place inside a shopping mall, and this one takes place largely on a moving train, and that kind of ups the scare factor for me when you're literally trapped in a train, car, or a building or whatever with rabid zombies. It helps make it a little scarier, I think, especially when you never know who's going to turn next. And I thought this movie did a pretty good job of kind of delaying those turns, because there are a few characters who turn along the way and it's always a surprise. And the way the zombies are handled in this movie is super scary. They're so fast and super violent. Zombies kind of historically or traditionally are slow moving. And in modern zombie movies, they kind of up that ante a little bit. But this feels like, of the zombie movies I've seen, like some of the scariest zombies, because they run so fast and they burst through doors and walls and windows and they just eat you. And they're not dumb. We several weeks ago we reviewed Army of the Dead on Netflix, and one of the kicks to those zombies is that they learned. And this doesn't go that far, but they are smart and capable of like getting what they want. You can't just like outsmart them necessarily. So I like that part of it too. And then there's the whole family drama of it that helps connect you to the characters and want to see them do well. This little girl wants to go to Busan to be with her mom, and her dad was kind of hesitant to do it. But she was kind of sick of her dad, it seemed like, like little kids get. And so it was just kind of nice to see that family dynamic evolve over the course of the movie as they try to not get eaten. So I liked it. David?
Yeah, this movie was pretty great. I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised. This is one of the aspects I love about our Halloween and Christmas kind of tradition. Just kind of picking some movies and not going with strict sequels and stuff, because you can get a lot of versatility or a lot of variety during the Halloween times, because we can do something that's kind of like got a film history component, like we did last week with The Fog. You can do something that's kind of like that, all powerful franchise stuff like Halloween Kills. That's kind of like this thing that just kept going, and then we can dip into some of like the foreign styling too, and who knows whatever Andrew's going to pick. But this was really good, really compelling. I liked that there's the zombie genre was established, and it was really kind of like really run down to like, what can you do now? And I think that people are constantly trying to figure out fun ways to incorporate zombies into very difficult to win scenarios. There's a puzzle here of, we're on this train stuck with these zombies. What do we do? And every and it's not just zombies on a train. There's this infection is going on all around South Korea. So it's like, we'll try to stop. Well, we can't stop. There's more there. So we just have to keep going. And how do we get from this car to this car? There's zombies in the way. And how they figure those problems out is very interesting and very compelling. And like you said, Josh, we get this nice family drama. We got this typical Disney dad who's all about work, right? And doesn't have time for his kids, and has to learn along the way, right? You have honestly, I'm gonna butcher his name, but his Americanized name. Sorry. Please take this boy. Sorry. His Americanized name is Don Lee, I think, and he's gonna be Gilgamesh in Eternals, and we'll talk about that soon. But he's this kind of big tough guy who is straight up punching zombies, and that is always my favorite character in a movie, is the zombie puncher. Whether he's wrestling them, taking them down, he's very the guy who was he's been ready. He's been waiting for the day that a zombie tries to punk him out, right? So that was a lot of fun, and his character arc is a lot of fun. I was not ready for the amount of people that we would get attached to and lose. But I have to say, they did an incredible job of really getting you to invest in the characters. And I kind of thought that would be difficult with the language barrier. But I'm always surprised when that doesn't actually happen. I always think, like, because I'm having to go down, like, because I have to read along what they're saying, that sometimes the emotional aspect isn't going to connect. But the little girl, fantastic. The dad, fantastic. Everybody involved in this just does a great job. And it's and it's appropriately scary when it needs to be. So yeah, I tell you what though, the Korean filmmakers, they know how to make their bad guys just bad. just like F this guy. Like, the amount of times I shook my head, went, oh, damn it. This guy is just bad, and he keeps getting away with it. Yeah. And it's just so awful. I just wanted to see that guy die so bad.
At the end, all he had to do was close a single door at any point in time, and 3 people's lives could have been saved.
I know exactly.
But he just didn't close the door.
I was like, this guy, it was like he couldn't wait to throw somebody figuratively and literally out of under the bus, Yep. It was like he couldn't resist it. And so I was like, you know what? I feel like it's been a while since I've wanted to see a character die so bad.
Yeah. I think they do a really good job of that, because there are several times throughout the movie where it's like, you know what? I hope you do die. I find myself rooting for the zombies to kill certain people, and I'm like, I hope you die. I hope you get one of them brutal ones. I hope that I see you convulse and contort and twist your arm and all that stuff. I hope you die painfully.
And every time he would manage to snake away, we're talking about the well, a little bit of spoilers here. We're talking about the businessman. I
He
couldn't
was
quite
this.
I couldn't quite interpret
He was the
what he was.
COO of another railway on
Okay,
this railway. Was
that was
my
what I thought. That was what I thought, but I couldn't quite figure out what exactly if that was the case or not.
Yeah.
Every time he would sneak away, snake his way out of it. I was like, oh God, this guy needs to get it. But this is like the third or fourth Korean film I've watched, and it's kind of the case every time, man. Their bad guys are just objectively bad dudes.
Yeah. I also agree a lot with the character arc of the husband of the pregnant woman. I'm not going to try to, I don't want to butcher their names, so just drive the characters. His character is, you're right, David, throughout there, he is just ready to punch a zombie and ready to make that sacrifice. But what I think they do with that character is that they make him a lot more emotionally available than the father of the young girl, the main character, which just based on looks alone is not something that you see based on how they look in most films. I would say that the guy who is ready to punch a zombie is not the emotionally stable one most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one, the father was the emotionally unavailable one and really had to grow into that. And you see that development. And again, you see that rub off from his daughter, from how she's treating the older women to how she's interacting with the couples versus him trying to close the door in their face. And so he really progresses throughout the whole thing. And in addition to the elements that are added from the scariness of the zombies, a lot of times during this movie, the zombies are not the main focus. They are just the enhancer of a bigger message they're trying to get across. And I think they do a really good job of fading in and out of when you need to focus on the zombie scary and when you can focus on the storytelling.
And as one more thing, this cast actually is a pretty still very active cast. Like I said, we've got Don Lee is going to appear in Eternals. The father, Gong Yu, I believe is how you say his name. He was just in Squid Game, and then the baseball player, he was the son in Parasite. He was the lead son in Parasite. So and that's not to say that the female characters aren't also in a lot of things. I'm just kind of casually going through their IMDb's now, and it's a very good cast, and this cast is continuing to get good roles, and that's really exciting to see, because I think a lot of times people ignore the fact that there are flourishing film industries outside of Hollywood, and they kind of measure all things by Hollywood. And not to say that Hollywood isn't the biggest, but the South Korean film industry is very good and has a lot of talented performers.
Yeah, it is very good, and it's been exciting to see more Korean cinema kind of make its way into the American mainstream. I just lost my train of thought. You got Parasite taking home the big prize at the Oscars a couple years back. You got, like you mentioned, Squid Game is Netflix's, I believe it's Netflix's most watched series of all time now officially. Train to Busan, and then of course, in the outside of film, there's the K-pop music industry is huge. So whatever they're doing with their entertainment industry is working, because it's really blowing up over here in America, and that is cool to see, because you're exactly right, David. A lot of people, especially Americans, don't think about the fact that there are outside of Hollywood films and art and so many great things being made, but over here we're kind of quick to dismiss foreign films, I think.
It's easy to do because the United States and Hollywood just kind of exports so much that we just don't get a lot of imports. But I think the more successful these movies can be and these shows can be, and it's kind of funny because there's a big desire for it. There's a lot of people who are fans of either Japanese programming or South Korean programming. So I feel like that, honestly, we're having an easier time getting those kind of films into the mainstream than we are like French or Spanish films. Like I don't know, I'm not sure how that occurred, but I ended up doing a lot of research about Busan in South Korea just after watching this movie, because I just kind of found the whole idea and the whole premise to be very fascinating. So let's talk about the zombies themselves in this movie.
Yeah, they're freaky.
Yeah, they got a very good look. They look like zombies,
Yeah,
but also they didn't like try to do anything too crazy with like jaws hanging off, or the skin melting off of them or anything. These are very like fresh zombies.
yeah, and I like they went with that because it kept them humanistic, but I like the slow transition of this virus where, like, one of the first people that we see kind of become zombified on the train. We first see her just kind of like limping down the aisle, and then we see a shot of her legs, and her legs are like getting all veiny and white and gross, and their eyes wide over. Like, it's gross, man.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, I was just saying, I think, yeah, they kind of illustrate that, like, it is like a virus that slowly moves through you, like a venom. And you can see when she gets on the train, she like ties like a band around her leg, to kind of like cut off the circulation, to kind of like stave it off, but it doesn't, it can only work for so long.
Well, and what was the first thing that you see as far as like a zombie type thing is a deer. And so the deer gets run over, and then it starts to get back up and be evil, and then its eyes wide over, and it's like, what the hell is that? I think we talked last week about the fog and kind of how it was slow all the way through and never really ratcheted up. And I feel like this movie did a good job of ratcheting up throughout the movie. And I think the evolution of the zombies and just the brutality of it is a good example of that, because it does start off, you really see the slow, painstaking process of the veins and the development and the contortion. Again, that kind of stuff really gets to me whenever there's convulsing and there's twisting and there's creepiness, and it all looks like these people are actually doing it, which just enhances it. And so from there, it starts off slow, and then they build. You see these more zombies. I mean, I think, the first time they're running from the train, they just like explode out the back, so unexpected. And it's just like out of nowhere. They're just all over the place. And then they swarm, and it ends with them just grabbing the train and holding on. And like, it's so many zombies just being pulled by this one train. It's just relentless. And they don't do too much to go over the top. They do the simple effects. They do the nasty looking skin, blood, and wide-eyed or like clouded eyes, and they just do it well, which really just, I think, is scarier than some of the over the top things that you can do that look great, but this is in mass just terrifying.
Yeah, this is, like I said, these are zombies these are fresh zombies. These aren't like zombies that have been decaying for like months, and this isn't like months into a pandemic, a zombie pandemic. This is day one, and it's a great combination of visual effects, special effects, and makeup, right? Where you have those moments where they burst violently out of windows, as though the windows as though like they're being shot from a cannon. And there's like a moment later on where they're chasing the train, and they're getting close, but all of a sudden like a bunch of them get too close together, and they like bundle up and fall. It's kind of got like a World War Z level of zombie vibe to it. But I'm reading here that the zombie makeup on them, in Hollywood, that'd probably be mostly visual effects that they would add on, but it's all airbrushing, all the veins and stuff. It's all airbrushing, contacts, and then just face makeup. So it's and obviously whatever put some blood packs in, drool it. So it's a good combination of all of those things. I like at the end, with the train, and they're all grabbing on. They basically form like a sheet so well that like some zombies can get up and crawl along the other zombies along the top. It's very very inventive in a lot of ways, but also it doesn't like try to overdo it. I think sometimes you see a zombie type movie and people try to like think of like what's the craziest thing a zombie could do. And I think this doesn't try to like do anything too crazy. It's all stuff that seems like, oh crap, that's bad, that's terrifying. I like the reveal that the zombies can't really see in the dark. what a great kryptonite. You know,
Yeah.
if you're in the zombie apocalypse, like, well, they can't really see at night or in the dark, so you just gotta be quiet, and you know, and they find, you know, it's like we talked about, it's a puzzle. How
Yeah.
can we get past these things?
Yeah.
Oh, well, now we know what weakness they have.
So I wanted to talk about that because I feel like, you know, I'm going to weirdly compare this to Twilight just for a hot second, because zombies in general are the one genre of supernatural thing I feel like that you can really work with the lore of, because it's just an undead thing, right?
Mhm.
So like Twilight, when they did their rebranding of vampires that like made them sparkle in the sunlight or whatever, and people didn't like that. I feel like that's tweaking with a thing that has been around for so long. But with zombies, as long as they are undead, then you can create something with them. Like, it is not a common thing across all the lores of zombie movies that they are blind, right? It's not all of them that they are deaf. Some of them they can't hear. But with the zombie movie, you can really kind of create it in a way. And I think that they set that up well with especially with the clouded eyes, because it really does give some cadence to the fact that it would be very difficult for them to just see in the dark because their eyes are clouded. So like things like that they do to just kind of insert some kind of, you know, it's a storytelling element, but it adds to that suspense and that drama that they can, how are they going to get from this train to this train if it's just a bunch of undead zombies who can't get anything? So you put your own twist on it, and I like that creativity.
Yeah.
It doesn't work with like vampires and stuff because, you know, those are things
There's
that
so
people
many-
are so know, and like that is the lure, you know, garlic, vampires, or crosses, sunlight, you know, those are the things that you can't take away.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules about vampires and werewolves and stuff that people have kind of, that are so part of the pop culture that when you change that, people kind of go, huh, a weird change. Like I think that another thing about Twilight was that the werewolves weren't actually werewolves, they were like some other thing altogether, but you know, it is what it is. Yeah, I think this might be one of the best zombie movies I've seen in the last 10 years easily, if not ever.
I think that's fair. I would agree with that.
You know, and the other great thing about this is that I'm reading here that they were heavily inspired by a couple of, like, two different video games, which is 7 Days to Die and Silent Hill, which are, I don't play horror games too much, but I have played both of those. And I didn't pick up on those inspirations watching it, but I can kind of see it now reading it. I can visualize it.
Cool. Okay, great. Well, shall we talk about how this movie performed in the
We
box
can.
office? This should be a slightly different one because this is not a, you know, domestic is US for us, but it did not come out here.
I've got some domestic numbers, which I'll get into in a minute, but I've also got like a rundown of how it performed in its international markets. I do want to say too, this movie does have a related sequel, if you will. I like this phrasing. It's called a standalone sequel. What does that mean? Standalone sequel. It's in the same universe. It's called Peninsula. It came out last year, which is about this. It's about the same event, but obviously not on a train. So, Train to Busan performed very well. It made $90 million internationally, $2 million in the United States and Canada. Now you might be saying 2 million. Wow, people really didn't want to go see this, but they really didn't have that much of an opportunity. This, in terms of its American release, this movie was never in more than 21 theaters. So there wasn't a lot of opportunities for people to go see it. But you look at those international numbers, and it did very well. Like I said, 90 million. It is brought in 80.5 million just in South Korea, and 15 million in other countries. It's the highest grossing Korean film in several countries: Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore. It's stated that more than 11 million people in South Korea went to see Train to Busan, which that's a pretty high number. They must track that better than we can.
I think I was looking for that statistic too, David, because I was trying to remember the way that it was worded, but I can't find it. It's like the most attended movie, I think, in Korean or South Korea.
Yeah, and it's the highest grossing film for South Korea in 2016. And I can see why. It's got kind of a lot of appeal. I imagine that, like we talked about the stars, these are like this would be like a star-studded cast for an American equivalent. Like I said, in the United States and Canada, it brought in just over 2 million. I'm sorry, its highest theater number was 36. That was the most theaters it was ever in. So that 2.2 million on just like a very small theater count, pretty good. Its highest, what was its highest weekend? 284,000. So pretty good. That's really all the stats I have in terms of that. In terms of its box office performance, I felt like there was one other thing I was going to say about it though. I can't remember. But all right, that's we can advance to the next part. That's all I got.
Cool. Okay, well then we will need to.
I don't remember who won the letter.
I know what I was. Actually, I remember what it was. I'm reading here, and I don't know where we stand on this, but there is the idea for an American remake of this.
Oh yeah, I remember this being a thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember the details.
I would be down on this. I don't know much about the writer, but supposedly one of the producers of the film would be James Wan. So James Wan, like him a lot from the Conjuring universe and Aquaman, and he's pretty good. So what would you think what would be the equivalent? It's gotta be like Train to Chicago.
It has to be a subway, right? Got to be a subway.
There's not a lot of American passenger train systems as there are in other countries. I would think, and I looked it up, Busan is the second most populous city in South Korea. So
it's an Amtrak from Delaware to DC, and that's it.
Train to DC.
It's an hour-long ride.
You've heard of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? Get ready for Joe Biden Zombie Killer. That's what it is.
There you go. There you go.
The Amtrak train.
Amtrak Joe will take care of them.
I don't know what the second most populous city in the United States is. It's got to be Los Angeles, right? So it's got to be like Train to LA.
I think so.
That's got to work, right? I don't know, it's gonna be very different because obviously there's a lot of cultural differences that you have to overcome for that remake. But anyway, sorry, let's move on to the letterbox game.
All right, cool. Who's running it this week?
I believe Garrett is.
Oh, good, because I just saw the score anyway.
Perfect. Well, I'm gonna hope that this is a higher scoring movie. I hope so, because I think it's better. I'm gonna use this as a time to say, I don't know that this movie's perfectly good. Why does there need to be an American remake? This movie's only 5 years old. It works perfectly well today.
I think the answer, unfortunately, is only so people can make money off of it. I mean, you David, you said that at any point in time it was only in 36 theaters, this version of this movie. So there's no reason why Warner Brothers couldn't work with the company to get it into more theaters and strike some kind of partnership to get more eyes on this current version, which I think would be good because again, even, I think that it is important to be able to see these movies in their original form because you can still connect with a lot of the storytelling. And I think that is that visual representation for a lot of people to go see movies. It connects them with people maybe they wouldn't normally connect with on a level that they don't interact with, right? You see people that you don't see in your regular life on a movie screen telling stories that you can connect with. I think that helps. But you're right, to take this such a recent movie and Americanize it is really only monetarily
that's going to be the question, is whether or not an American remake means an Americanized movie, like with for I'll just get into it with White Stars or American Stars. If they wanted to make this movie again, but they really wanted to keep the essence of it and hire South Korean actors or even just Asian American actors as the stars of the film still, then there might be an argument for hey, let's try it out and we'll just the main difference is going to be in English. That might be an interesting way to go about it. I'm seeing that they haven't really attached the director, but they were talking with an Indonesian film director, so that's kind of surprising. But if the idea is to make this movie with I love this guy, but they make this movie with Chris Evans and and The Rock, as the zombie puncher. And who's a good young kid? Oh, and Timothy Chalamet is the baseball player or something like that. Like if that's the goal, then it's gonna feel forced. It's gonna feel weird. But if they want it, like I'm always up for a remake if they take advantage of doing something different, doing something new, or just giving opportunities to people who don't normally get these kind of opportunities. Like the original movie's still there, it's still probably going to be better. But if you get creative people attached and you give some opportunities to people who don't normally get good movie opportunities, I'd be willing to see what they can do anyway. But I also don't think it really needs one. But
so with that, I'm gonna guess a 3.9.
Yeah. So I'm thinking too. Letterboxd loves foreign films, so I will go even higher a little bit, and I'm going to guess a 4.1.
3.9, a 4.1. What if it was right in the middle? What would you guys do?
4.0.
I guess I'd have to figure that out.
It's
not, thankfully. One of you is right, so it makes my job easier. It is Josh. It is a 3.9 on the Letterboxd.
Exactly a 3.9.
3.9.
There you go.
Good.
Another win for Josh. I got to write that down.
Put another tally under my name.
The Josh name.
All right, cool. Well, let's see here. I also.
Oh, we don't have Andrew here to pick the new next movie. Oh, so what would you give it, Josh?
I think it's a 4 stars for me. I think I can get with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the same. I'm gonna say 4 stars.
I'm gonna up it just a bit to a 4.5.
There you go. The only thing that would have helped this movie for me in general, and this is not something that the movie creators had any control over, but Amazon Prime is where I watched this, and so they had subtitles, but they didn't have titling for all text. So there's a lot of text on the screen at times. I had no idea what information was being conveyed there. Sometimes they would have text for a sign that said hazard or warning or something. But like guys would have their phone out and they'd have like text messages, or there was like the TV screen. And I was like, there's information being conveyed there that I'm not going to be able to pick up on, unfortunately. So like, that's not really a knock on the movie. That's more so a knock on the conversion to rate or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. Great. Well.
Yeah. Well, where's Andrew? What is his movie going to be?
Exactly. The world may never know. I guess everyone will find out as a surprise next week as we extend Halloween
Keep
a
it
little
going
bit into November.
Dia de los Muertos.
And then, I'm assuming we will jump right into the Eternals after that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll give everybody a chance to see Eternals before we spoiler review it.
That's perfect. I think we got some fun stuff coming up. Obviously there's going to be some big movies for the end of the year. We've got our annual Christmas bonanza in December before we kind of wrap up the season. So it's fun. I like this part of the year when we're starting to wind down. It's a long wind down, but it's a really fun one. And this next season should hopefully be better than ever. This one was a bit of a recovery, thankfully.
Yeah,
we were close. We were so close a couple of times.
I know.
There'll be movies in theaters again, so that'll be a big
thing. That's the thing is season 5, man. That's it, right? I think it's season 5 next year.
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we're
veterans in this podcast game now.
We're headed towards that.
We last longer than most network sitcoms.
Remember that time we were nominated for an award?
I know we got to push for that again.
Yes, it'll happen. If you're listening, any award committees. Okay, well, yeah, that's it for us then. We'll be back with one more spooky movie next week. Until then, you can find us online at somanysequels.com, where we've got all our links in a very handy list for you there, so you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you catch pods. And then, of course, our YouTube channel has the video version of these episodes if you just really need to see our faces. And I don't blame you if you do. And sometimes you get lucky and you get to see David's son.
Yeah, every now and then he'll pop in.
You
as a
might
friend.
hear him on the podcast every now and then, but sometimes you get to see him on YouTube. So you can subscribe to us there because everybody loves to see babies.
Yeah, and he's a pretty good looking kid.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm
You
saying.
know, I know everybody
Good
says
mascot.
that, but I think I have documented proof that he's actually. He's like, oh, here he comes.
Oh,
Here
he's
he
here
goes,
for the YouTube audience.
baby.
He's like, hey, I want that in my mouth.
That was mine. I don't want the YouTube audience. I want the
Hello.
thing.
Hello.
Say hello to your
Wonderful
fans.
guy.
Hello.
Oh
Doing the
man.
two
Okay.
chairs for me.
Well, go find us online, do all that fun stuff, and we'll see you guys next time. Until then, have fun with life.